Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me. Let there be peace on earth, the peace that was meant to be. With God as Creator, united all are we. Let us walk with each other in perfect harmony.
Today is a Sunday of joy. I wanted to make you smile when you walked in here, and how could you not? Thanks to Joyce, everything is so bright and just makes you want to open up with all kinds of joy. And, you know, Christmas has always been my favorite time. I know a lot of you have bad memories about Christmas and you don't like Christmas. And I used to say that I was very poor when I was a child until I went to the shelter, so I don't say that anymore. But what I will say is that it wasn't a lavish Christmas. We always got our tree, our Christmas Eve, because they were about 25 cents by then. And they were ugly, they looked like this. They were Charlie Brown Christmas trees. But I had this wonderful sister named Becky, who was like 15 years older than I was, and she was the mother, the surrogate mother of the family, because my mother was old. Are you ready for this? My mother was 50 then. And we thought she was very, very old. Much too old to be getting involved in decorating Christmas trees. So Becky would make this Christmas tree look beautiful. And then she would put mistletoe under certain doorways so that every time her boyfriend and her were caught, they'd have to kiss. Because kissing wasn't allowed in my family, you know, not publicly. So but they'd have to kiss when they went under the mistletoe. And the thrill of my life was hiding behind the couch, catching them kissing under that mistletoe. And anyway, so I remember Christmas being fun and wonderful. There was only one present under that tree for me, but that present was precious and wonderful, and we opened it slowly, and we didn't open it till Christmas morning, so we went to bed early because that present was going to be under the tree, and it was wonderful. And to this day, I love Christmas, even though it's not as wonderful when the kids are all gone, because all of you who have had children know that the excitement of shopping and putting things under the tree and having, that's gone, but it's still a wonderful time. It's a wonderful energy of joy. And to make it even more joyful, I had my first bilingual wedding here on Friday. We married Liz and Joe. Yeah. Let me tell you, that was my first millennial wedding. It's different. I was told that. You know, I actually had the church join a website called Wedding Wire so that we could get weddings. And when Liz said she was getting married, I thought, well, why don't you do it here? I thought to myself, this will give me practice. And I'm always the kind of person that does everything in the last minute. I just don't know why. I've just never been one of those people who can plan way ahead like some of you. So I kept saying, I have to write a bilingual wedding, I have to write a bilingual wedding, but I could never find the time for it. But once I promised Liz that I would marry her on Friday, I had to do it. So I sat down for 5 or 6 hours and I came up with a bilingual wedding, which of course we will use again and again and again, made it especially for them. And it was wonderful, and they know how to have fun, the millennials. They really do, they just dance. I even joined them and danced with them at the Fellowship Hall. So I thought it was also wonderful that it's all happening on the weekend of the Advent of Joy, because joy is such a wonderful thing, and you know, it lifts our spirits. And so this is the last Sunday of Advent, and I'm going to ask Mary Ann to light the candle of joy, which of course is the pink candle because it's the whole idea that this is Jesus' birthday. So that's why we're joy-filled. This was a day that was chosen for his birthday. We know he wasn't born on December 25th, but it was a day that was chosen for his birthday. And so we don't celebrate. That one over there is the pink one. That's Jesus. We will light the other ones too, but let's do Jesus first. There's a candle of joy. And then, of course, we had the candle of hope, and the candle of peace, and the candle and you can light those. The candle of hope, and the candle of hope because hope is the mother of faith, and faith brings us to that place of peace because the mind of peace precedes healing. And then once we feel peace, we automatically feel love. And so the last one was the candle of love. And so Advent, of course, is a time of absolute peace. It's a faith journey. It's a journey of peace. It's a faith that that thing is going to light and those candles are going to light. So let's just use our power of faith and just know it. We have established a consciousness of faith and peace. We're ready for the healing miracle of love. And then, of course, that always leads us to joy. When we celebrate the birth of Jesus, we really remember that it's really about our rebirth as well. Our rebirth into the presence of love and joy and peace, even though we know that that lives within us, sometimes we forget about it. So this is the season to remember that all those are real possibilities for all of us. And we can focus on Jesus' promise when he said, "These things have I spoken to you, that my joy may be in you, and your joy may be full." So what I hear Jesus saying is that joy is a really important part of the spiritual journey, because without joy we can't be positive. And we know the power of our words, and we know what a difference it makes with us. So joy makes everything wonderful. Joy could make a Charlie Brown Christmas tree look like a bank tree, because there's so much joy in all of it. And when we remember that, then our life becomes very, very different, because we find joy in little things. One of the most powerful things that ever happened to me, and it's really funny how powerful things happen to you, but you don't think it's going to be a powerful experience when you go into it. I had planned to go to Puerto Rico to finish my dissertation. For those of you who have doctorates know you got to write this like 200-page term paper, as you'd call it, or maybe 300-page, and I needed to have a nice quiet place to do it. So I thought I'd go to the beach for a month, and I would just sit there, and I would just have my computer with me, and I would just get that dissertation done in a very pleasant way. I had been in the Midwest at the Chapel of Light in Ohio, and I'd been there for about, off and on, including Unity Village, about 15 years. And the kids were going crazy. "We want you to come back to California. We want you to come back to California." I said, "All right, I'll leave the Chapel of Light, and I'll go to Puerto Rico, finish my dissertation, and then I'll come home to California." So I took all my furniture to where the kids were in San Diego, and I stored it, and I left my Buick Riviera parked in front of my daughter's house. And I left for Puerto Rico with 2 suitcases, because those of you who know me know I'm a very light traveler. So I went for a month with 2 suitcases. And there I am, just having a wonderful time working on my dissertation, when someone approaches me and says, "Would you start an English-speaking ministry here?" I said, "No. I'm here to finish my dissertation. Then I'm going home to my children, because I've been," and I would give them the whole story. And they said, "Well, how about if you just stay and get us started?" And then this woman pops up and she says, "I work for Pepsi Cola, and I have an incredible apartment in the nicest part of town, and you could live there free if you'll just stay and help us." And I thought, all right. I went in it kicking and screaming, because after all, I was really there to finish my dissertation. So after a month, I was done, and they said, no, you can't leave now, because now we have 10 people, English-speaking people coming, and they called it the Beacon of Light, because of course I was coming from the Chapel of Light, and I was into light. And so they called their church the Beacon of Light, and a month later there were 20 people, and 6 months later there were 100 people, and they wouldn't let me leave. And my children were saying, "You are so irresponsible. How could you go there with 2 suitcases just to write a dissertation and not come home?" I said, "Well, I'll be home in 3 months." Anyway, 2 years later, and I just committed to not buying anything so I could be free to go home. So every time I bought a new dress, I gave one away. So I'd only have the 2 suitcases to go back home in. But the reason I'm telling you the story is because it turned out to be the most joy-filled experience of my life. Because they know how to enjoy life. Their joy is not built on things. They don't have to have beautiful things and beautiful cars and beautiful furniture and beautiful clothes, but there is so much joy. The families get together and they have so much joy and they're so happy, and every occasion was so filled with joy. And their fellowship was equal to yours. They loved wonderful food and they had wonderful fellowship every Sunday, because our Sunday's like a potluck every Sunday. And theirs was too. Only it was this wonderful Puerto Rican food that I learned to eat and love. And they sent for me 7 times after I left there. Because we had such a relationship, because you can't help but have a relationship when there's joy. When everybody's happy and there's joy, every time somebody's baby was born, they'd send me a ticket. And I'd have a week in Puerto Rico free. Every time somebody was getting married, they'd send me a ticket, and I'd have a week in Puerto Rico 7 times. And so it was all because of joy. And what I learned was, that's the way my childhood was. That's how my family was, because we were not lavish. We did not live in fancy neighborhoods and fancy houses. We lived in an apartment, 6 kids. And we had such wonderful, joy-filled Christmases, and so did they. And so I realized that joy is an innate sense of contentment. It's an inner state. It's not based on stuff. It's based on that inner sense of being happy and content with who you are and where you are, and loving your family and loving life, whether it's full of stuff or not. Just being there. And real joy, of course, is a state of comfort that can take criticism and blame without resentment. When joy is full, we're able to ignore a friend's unlimited or limited education and not correct them and criticize them. And yet, we can't even start the day off without caffeine to give us a boost. And we live in the most lavish country in the whole world. And we have that to give ourselves outside stimulus to just get up that wonderful sense of joy. And the truth is that the way our society is today, if you can take criticism and blame without resentment, and if you can ignore a friend's limited education and never correct him or her, and if you can resist treating a rich friend better than a poor friend or equal to a poor friend, if you can resist complaining and boring people with your troubles, if you understand when your loved ones are too busy to give you any attention, if you can overlook it when things go wrong and those you love take it out on you even though it's not your fault, if you can face the world without lies and deceit and conquer tension without medical help, and relax without liquor, and sleep without any kind of an aid of drugs, you're probably the family dog. Because we can't do it. And it's something that we have to set our intention to do. We have to set our intention to say, I can do this. I can be happy in spite of what's happening around me. I can smile because the brain has us programmed for joy. Did you know that? Yeah. I mean, the left brain actually is stimulated, the left side of our brain, when we feel joy. The body creates endorphins that just fill us with this natural chemistry that helps us to be joyful. It's a self-reinforcing habit. That's what it is. So joy is a self-reinforcing habit. You need to reinforce yourself, and only you can do it. Nobody else can do it for you, because you have dedicated brain circuits that are dedicated to that. You actually have brain circuits that are waiting to be stimulated and that will fill you with the endorphins. You are programmed for joy. What a concept. To be programmed for joy. Those people in Puerto Rico that didn't have, I mean, some of them had lavish homes, but the thing about Puerto Rico and Latin America is that there's very little middle class anywhere, except in, what's the country that is so stable? Costa Rica. Except for Costa Rica, there's very little middle class in these countries. You're very rich or you're very poor. But the very rich are very happy and the very poor are very happy. They don't sit around thinking, those people live in those mansions. But they're just happy in their little houses where they are because it's an innate habit. It's a self-reinforcing habit. And not only that, but they've been taught from childhood, from watching, because your children learn more when you're not watching them, when they're watching you and you don't know they're watching you, than any other way. And they've learned by watching that inner contentment that the parents have for no reason, just because they're alive, just because the sun is shining or not, just because it's raining, doesn't matter. But there's that inner sense of joy. It's that, and those endorphins, I like to call them feel-good chemicals that just fill us when our left brain is stimulated, really make all the difference in our lives, and they alter our perception of time. Have you ever noticed how time flies by when you're having fun? It just flies when you're happy. And what happens when you're unhappy? Have you ever been on a date that started at 7 and at 7:15 you look at your watch because you're sure 2 hours have gone by and it's only 15 minutes? Because joy alters our perception of time, and lack of joy also alters it in a negative way. Time just goes by very, very slowly. Talk to somebody who's waiting to be executed. Time goes by very, very, very slowly when something awful is happening in your life. And so you want to recognize that you've been programmed for this. This is not something that needs to be new to you. And so start to do what I like to call irrational joy. Irrational joy is where you just feel joy-filled over a simple little pleasure. I remember going to see the butterflies and the monarchs, and just seeing those trees filled with monarchs filled me with joy, like I was at the Charlie Brown Christmas tree as a little girl. It just is an irrational pleasure because there's no real reason for it. It just fills you because you start to love simple little things, and you start to become joy-filled over simple things in your life. And so today, our affirmation is irrational joy is reborn in me today. Irrational joy. Joy that doesn't determine on getting a new car or getting a new relationship or getting this or getting that. Just plain simple things in life that make you happy. And so let's affirm that together. Irrational joy.
Irrational joy
Is born in me today.
is born in me today.
And so it is.